Welcome everyone to this fantastic shifting gears session. I hope that we will really take some value away from here. The Simply Biz program has a wide range of business activities, thinking modules, and so on. And we're going to be looking specifically at motivation today. Can I just ask you, in the chat, can you just say yes or no whether you can hear me, just so I can see how many people are on board? I've got, hi Renee, Michaela, Janet, hello. Renee, hello. Michaela. Just answer either I can hear you or not hear you. Okay. There's Janet. And Ricky. Great. Yes. Nedbank, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm happy to be here today. I think that the people who are coming to these forums are looking for working on their business instead of in their business. And this is what the whole Thought Leadership series is about. So typically, we're not going to be discussing an HR plan or a marketing plan or an implementation plan. Think of the interaction as a thinking plan, if that can work for you. I just want to remind you that if you have questions, please go to the questions tab and enter them there rather than in the chat. Then I can check as the questions come up. And then the chat doesn't get too congested. All right, so changing gear. This is all about changing your motivation strategy. How many of you have been to see a motivational speaker? If you can just give me a yes or no. Okay, some have, some haven't. Well, you know, I sometimes come to the conclusion that there isn't something like a motivational speaker, but there could be something like a motivating speaker. And in your leadership role, that's something that you cannot abdicate. It's like your finances. You cannot abdicate your finances. You're still accountable, but you cannot abdicate your leadership. So, what's changing gear all about? It's about changing the way you do business, and we use the word pivot a lot. It's one of those buzzwords today that everybody thinks they know what it is, and implements it in different ways. But the real thing is that change is constant. So it's not that change hasn't been constant before, but how do we handle dramatic or rapid change from a leadership point of view? So it's about a mindset, because everybody who works in the business is watching what mindset you have. So yes, motivation is the driving force for momentum, but momentum is the key word. We've got to maintain momentum. So I just want to say that the next step is we have got this wide range of changes in global business, and there's a new mindset, and it's here to stay. So if you haven't yet, I wouldn't say got the message, I think the first one is get real. and look at the horizon in terms of years and not in terms of months. Okay. One difference in the situation we are now is typically we would create a business vision. I see somebody is encountering issues with audio or video. Can everyone hear me? Or can I rather say, yeah, if you can't hear me, can you just chat and say, I can't hear you? Okay, looks like we're still on track. Have you ever been on vacation with your kids? You know, going down to the seaside, and the question I ask the most is, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Now, when we have a business vision, that vision is driving where we're going and what we want to achieve in the long term. But that says success is not final. So if we have been achieving success, which I'm pretty sure you have, the question is, when you get there, what then? Sometimes it doesn't turn out like you thought it was, but it's still up to you to hold the vision. But a vision alone is not going to be enough to hold your people in a space of empowerment. When you're in the business, you need to get people aligned with, okay, guys, girls, where do we ultimately want to be? But if the timeline suddenly compresses, you've got to hold the vision, and the vision now becomes much shorter term. We've got a crisis. How can we bring change? And how can you bring hope to the situation? Now, I want to talk quickly about the myth of thought leadership. Now, that might sound a bit strange, the myth of thought leadership. Thought leadership is a big issue right now. But I just want to put this question to you, and you don't have to answer. Does a person who's a thought leader need to be an expert? So let's just think about that. Because how do you now get a grip on what thought leadership means for you in your business? There are experts in thought leadership. There might be someone who is a thought leader in an industry sector, and people listen to what they say. However, when you're running through a leadership scenario in your business, what is thought leadership? Thought is thinking, leadership is moving. So you don't need to be an expert in any area. As a thought leader, one of the key roles that you can play is bringing other people's thoughts together, being creative with that, and then merging those for a way forward. Now, I just want to, I'll come back to it, but I want you to think about that. Are you taking people with you on a thinking level, not a doing level, a thinking level? And are they moving with you, or are they lagging behind? So we know that, the pandemic hasn't been an easy thing to face, and it's been different for each one of us. But I would say, for a lot of people, COVID didn't kill your business, but COVID stress tested your business. The robustness of your business is the degree to which you can handle the uncertainty that comes up in certain situations. So what happens when the business fragments into different parts or breaks apart. And that's where, I don't know if you know what Lego is, those little blocks that you put together. The point is, the Lego is you. There are bits and pieces of the business. There are bits and pieces of people. You have to decide which bits and pieces need to be taken apart and how they need to be put together again. And that's all about taking people's thoughts, ideas, your worldview, your vision for the business, and moving that down to the short term and integrating that. Defining clearly what the functional blocks of the business are. For example, if you have a customer relationship management system, that's a block of Lego. If you have an accounting system, that's a block of Lego. If you have a marketing program, that's a block of Lego. So you can expect, in times of rapid change, that the Lego is going to fall apart. Some of the Lego pieces are going to lie all over the place. And it's up to you to identify what those pieces are and how do you want to put them together again. Now, how do we gear leadership? We've had a style of leadership, but again, the change situation is sometimes so impactful on people that it disempowers them. So the emotional intelligence part of leadership is becoming so important that I would say you can't afford not to become a stronger thought leadership if you're not improving your leadership EQ. And I would really encourage you, you don't have to go through a 6 months course, but there are many sites about EQ. I want to recommend or just point you to one. It's called 6 Seconds. There are short things that you can do. There's a lot on YouTube, but there are many. But 6 Seconds is quite an interesting one. All right. Let's talk about dreams versus goals. You know, when I ask someone, what are your dreams? Sometimes they might say, well, I want to leave a legacy, or I want to be the most powerful person or powerful in this business, or you know what, I want to have my family have a good life. So what they're doing is they're framing the space that they want to play in. So people say chase your dreams, but you can't chase your dreams unless you have goals. So if your goals are not articulated, you will be chasing dreams, and so will your people. In times of drastic change, it's better not to fiddle with the dreams and the vision. You can fiddle with the goals and changes, but if you move people or try and move people to have different dreams now for the whole business, that's a big change exercise. There's a book called Good Strategy and Bad Strategy, which basically says that a bad strategy, well implemented, is better than a good strategy not implemented. So when we're in times of change, spending time on strategy is important, but the time horizon and the direction of the strategy needs to be adjusted very quickly. And you need to decide, are we there yet? We can keep developing the business. We can keep building it. We can keep adding things. But what's the minimum that we need to do right now to say, are we there yet? So what do we do when things get tough? You know the saying, when things get tough, the tough get going. How do you feel about that? There's a saying which says, great things never came from comfort zones. But there's a skill of being outside of your comfort zone. You know, if you approach what you want to do day by day, and you've got a huge amount of things on your plate, How do you keep yourself motivated? How do you keep moving? How do you keep inspiring? What do you do when you're really tired? You know, if you set yourself up for just one win in a day, and you can achieve that, or if 2 wins, if you think, then you can walk away from that day and say, this is done, this is finished, that's a win. I can really say from over 1,500 hours of working with entrepreneurs, if you don't have a system, get one. Time management on a piece of paper, or what I've got to do today in a little notebook is probably not going to get you where you want to be, because you cannot afford to waste time. Now, there's a rhythm in the entrepreneurial environment. We call it eat, sleep, work, repeat. Eat, sleep, work, repeat. If you get into that mindset, then you know that the important thing is to repeat the cycle. And sometimes you have to break that cycle because you can't keep up with the changes. But that system is your matrix. Now, I'm sure that most of us have seen the movie The Matrix. If you don't have a matrix, you don't have the rules. So you and your business are operating in a matrix. And the matrix is the rules and the rhythm and the system. And that must integrate with not only what you do, but must help you and assist your people to know what time are we going to spend on every particular issue. So let's talk about time and task integration for a moment. Yes, we all have calendars and we have a to-do list. I would suggest, and I use this approach, is I integrate my time and task planning. So if I'm using Outlook or Google Calendar, I have appointments that are in my calendar, but I've also got a task list. And I know that tomorrow I've got to finish this task or that task. So I'll put in my fixed time or appointment times, and then I will book time for every task that I want to do on that day. You need to decide that this helps you prioritize. Some days you might have 4 meetings and you can only do an hour of tasks. Other days you decide this is a task-intensive day and I've only got 1 meeting. But if you don't integrate your tasks into your time planning, you're probably going to underestimate, procrastinate, and you have to go back to that task multiple times. You know, there's this whole image of business leaders, follow the heroes, and they're just doing everything at once. And sometimes we ask, how can Elon Musk or Richard Branson be busy with so many things? But it's been scientifically proven many, many times that multitasking is not a productive way for the brain. So this idea of busyness is, we worship these guys and girls who are so busy. How do they get it all done? There's nothing wrong with, and we always have a lot to do. But I think about it this way. If you can picture your desk as a workspace, there should be in front of you only one thing that you're working on. You can have, excuse me, I'm having a bit of a mic problem here. You can have the files that you need on close by and to hand. You've got your action list. But the point is that you want to finish a task and you don't want to be distracted by bits and pieces all over the place. So how do you decide which are the highest priorities. Of course, in your business, there are business priorities. But I've put this picture in of a juggler. I don't know how many of you can juggle. You know, I can keep 3 balls in the air for about 10 seconds. And you know what they say, don't drop the ball. But I want to talk about 2 things here. If you think about yourself and what you have to handle, boundaries are the first thing that become important. You need to think about what are the boundaries that you're going to set between your activities, your family, and people. Can someone just walk into my office anytime and ask me a question? Or can I say to them, I'm busy now, when would suit you? What about the boundaries at home? Is it acceptable for you to work 16 hours a day? If not, let's discuss the boundaries. But one thing we can't afford to do if we're juggling, and that is we can't drop the glass balls. So you have to decide what are the glass balls. The rubber balls will bounce back, the plastic balls might roll around on the floor, but you don't want to drop the glass ball. For example, you might want to spend time with your children. That might be one of your glass balls. You might have to retain someone in your business who is thinking of moving very rapidly and you're totally dependent on that person. That's a glass ball. So when you prioritize, think about what are your glass balls, the things you cannot afford to drop. And the point is you can, but you need to be able to have resilience for that and personal EQ. Because IQ and logic doesn't always determine what the glass balls are. Many times when we speak with people, we are working on the encountering issues with audio or video. All right. Ricky, are we still on track? Okay. Right. And, you know, when adrenaline really gets running, we all want to win. Winning is important. We want to win against the competition. We want to win in our business. But something I sometimes enjoy to do, and maybe you can do it too, is just get into a place where I totally lose control. Where I don't make the rules, where I just have to give myself over completely. I'll give you an example. If I go get on a roller coaster, I'm strapped in, I've got no control. So it doesn't matter whether you are going to play soccer or you're going to go on a roller coaster or whether you're going to play tennis. If you relax with the mindset that it doesn't matter if I win now, I must just enjoy it. So that teaches us that always winning is not always the objective. Sometimes we'll make mistakes, but to build into our lives something that is completely different and it teaches us not to control everything, and where you don't worry about winning or losing. That may be different for different people. It may be bungee jumping for some people. It may be rafting for some people. Or what I also like is to go karting. So I know you don't have a lot of time, but believe me, when you come away from there, you're going to get much more real. Because that adrenaline clouds the issues because, you know, it affects your brain to the amygdala, which is your emotional center, and then you sometimes get spacey and you can't make decisions. So that's the issue of building time and task integration. Build your leisure time into your calendar. So don't think Monday to Friday. think Monday to Sunday. Now, I'm not suggesting that you overdo it with planning on the weekend. But if you say, I'd like to go karting. The next week, I'd like to go karting. The next week, I'd like to go karting. But if you open your calendar and you see, karting on Saturday, I need to book. Then things will start happening. Right. Now, what about the people in your business? Can you quickly, just in the chat, can you just type for me the industry you're in and how many people are in your business? For example, I'm in telecommunications. I have 4 people. I just want to get an idea of the range of management that you need to do in terms of the human factor and holding the space of being there for your people. So I'm just going to give you a few seconds just to finish that. So we've got online shop, we've got consulting. Let's see what else. Graphic and web design. Okay, that's fine. Just keep going. Curtains, blinds, and shutters, marketing agency, and overall business size looks like about 5 or 6 people. You know, there is this phrase called holding the space. People can't comfortably operate in a vacuum. In a time of change, there's a framework, a reference framework that people will need to be able to adapt, to think, and to move. And a leader, we call the leader that holds the space. What is the space that the business is operating in? And you've got a few choices here. You know, you can say, all right, that's it. And one of the things you can do is immigrate to Australia. For most of us, that's not really something we want to do, or it's not an option. But what I want to say is that instead of running away, there is sometimes a tendency to confuse power with leadership. Each of you has tremendous power in certain areas. You may not always realize the impact of your power on your people. But you know, power is a limited resource. If you got 100 Rand in your pocket and you spend 20 Rand, you've only got 80 Rand left. If you spend another 30 Rand, you've only got 50 Rand left. So if you are using power as a framework for people, remember that it's a limited resource. You can warn someone 3 times because they're late. And the first time, they are most probably going to listen and react. The second time, they may not react as well as you thought. And now your power over this person or with this person is becoming less and less. So remember that power as a management style has its limitations. What people are looking for is safety. You know, if we think when we grow up, there is still a little child in each of us. Well, for me, I know there's a little boy in each of us. It's inside of me, although I don't really like trains. But my background's a lot in music. So I still play piano and clarinet. And there's a little boy in me when I re-experience what happened to me when I was young. But everybody has dreams. At one stage, I had a dream of being a concert pianist. At another stage, I had a dream of being a jazz player. Every person has a dream. And there's a saying that goes, don't kill the dream. So think about the people you work with. Do you know what their dreams are? do you know where they ultimately want to go? And is the business moving in the direction where people don't see an out? So their dreams are completely blocked. I would suggest that you have the intimacy with your people to know their dreams and to give them safety around that. It's not a guarantee. It's not to saying they'll reach their dreams, but we say never kill the dream. Because if you kill someone's dream, you kill their reason for working with you. You can even sometimes kill their reasons for doing other things outside of the office. So what do? How do we maintain power in the business? Well, it's all around these things, core competencies. All right, let's talk about what are core competencies. I'm looking at graphic and web design. So a core competency could be designing logos that really reflect a people's business and their needs. A core competency could be the rapid building of interactive websites. A core competency could be, let's say, having social media contact and maintaining contact with your clients. So core competencies are also the balls you can't drop. So what can you identify in your business that can work in other areas? Because if you have to pivot from where you are, you can only really pivot around your core competencies. Maybe it's not as pleasant an example to use, but suddenly people are going into selling masks. If your core competency is an online shop, yes, I think that if you can include selling masks in that, that would probably fit. But if your core competency as a consultant is to help people with strategy, then I would suggest that switching to selling masks is not a good idea, because you're moving out of your core competency space. This is where you need to get creative. But if you can say, these are my core competencies, how can I leverage them differently? So we're not talking about changing the Lego pieces of the business. We're just talking about putting them together in a different way. And people want basically three things. People want the facts, they want the plan, and they want the results. Yes, we can go now for a 2-day vision workshop and team building workshop, but really, we don't have that luxury when we're under pressure and people just want to get on with it. This is what's reality. This is what we're going to do, and let's see how quickly we can get the results. What does that mean in terms of culture in the organization? Let's first talk about office culture. If we're working in an office, we have, what do we call it? Corridor talk, we have office talk, we have emails, and there are, let's say, cultural boundaries or cultural bases in the business, and is disseminated between people. If we, however, some people are starting to work remotely as in teams, some people will be in the office, some people will change what they do to a certain degree, some people will be in webinars. Each of those groups and each of those people are now starting to develop a different culture. The way people feel about the working environment in the business, when the structure of the business changes, they perceive a change in the culture. If you now have teams working with one another, or if you have, if you've outsourced and you've got teams working and integrating, the new culture is called microsync. So if you've got 3 people working on a project and they're doing it in a different style, but it's working, then they have a microculture. Somebody else might have another microculture. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that microculture is enabling you to give them the Lego blocks and to get them in place. You need to decide to what extent are you prepared to have the culture chopped and changed. Now, if we're talking about keeping in touch with people on a cultural level and in terms of actions, I call it the check in, the check out, and speak out. You can either walk into someone's office or you can call them. Typically, you can Skype, check in, how are you, what's going, what's the progress. All right, where are we going now? Check out. This is what we've decided. This is where we're going. And very importantly, if you are moving into a fragmented culture, you are the one who needs to speak out. You are the connector. The Lego is you. If you have people in different microsync environments, you've got to link them so that they are still aware of what other people are doing, and you need to maintain the alignment and the integration of those microsync teams. So, this is very important in remote engagement, because if you're working face to face with someone, we're talking about engaging conversation. So how do you engage people remotely? Is there a reason why you cannot have virtual group meetings? Is there a reason why you cannot have a social media, a closed social media environment where you are engaging people? So we're talking about we're really managing and leading in our own business. And there's no person I believe that doesn't like to be appreciated. So more appreciation generally will bring more results. But it's not about flattering people. It's about thanking them, appreciating them for what they are, and letting others know what you appreciated about that. So sometimes we just have to start where we are, and these are the core competencies. Use what you have, and do what you can. The link between use what you have and do what you can is sometimes also called pivoting. But the space between these two things can vary, and there can be more little rocks going along here. So gauging what you have and what you can do. There are potential limits, but you as a thought leader need to bring and create the options. Use what you've got in your people. Don't underestimate what they can bring to the table. So you start where you are, you get them on board, use what you have. People always have competencies outside of what they're normally doing. Are you sure? Have you examined the core competencies or skills that are not being leveraged at the moment to do what you can? And then you can move on to do what you want. So the whole issue around managing the human factor in your business and holding the space is giving people boundaries and safety in terms of the areas they're moving in. You know, if, let's say, have a cash flow problem, people will have fear. So how do you keep an environment of safety? Well, there's certain things you have to share with people, and you have to be transparent. So it's very important. You don't want to be dishonest. And you also don't want to mislead people. But holding the space means they know that you have set, let's say, a business boundary in which they can move safely. And even if they need to leave, you will support them positively. Because you never know. You can maybe get them back in 3 or 6 months' time. But someone who has to leave a job in time of crisis can often be really broken, especially if they're under financial pressure. So if you want your business to have a real impact on individuals who may not be a part of the company, go through with it. Change gears, walk a path with them, keep doors open if necessary. They are also going to go into new networks. So keeping in touch with them is also going to lead you into new networks and new connections. By the way, if we're talking about core competencies, people are, let's say, in a circular space. Let me try and explain that. It's like a dartboard. In the red, you've got the bull that's in the middle. Then you've got the yellow, and then you've got the green. So you may have to say that the red are my core competencies. The yellow is core competencies and skills. And the green is people who have skills. Let's take, and I'm going to use something that's not on the list. Let's take an accounting business. Okay. The boundary of the business is delivering financial results so that people can manage their business. If those results are not delivered, if you don't deliver the management accounts, people are not going to use your services. Now, when that business grows, there are people like bookkeeping assistants or data capturers or office managers. They have skills and competencies which are important, but some of them you can get over in the short term. But then there's a group of people who have skills who, when you decide in terms of what you need to retain, you need to think about, is that a core competency or is it only a skill? So that can help you in selecting people, doing your onboarding, and doing your talent management. So let's try and sum up here what we're talking about. We've been talking about not the what, we've been talking about the how. And the how as a leader is not necessarily based on how much power you have, how attractive you have, or how much money you have, or what kind of car you have, and can you impress your employees, can you create a great image. I'm not saying that we don't need to be professional. But if we're talking about a changing in the times we're in, motivation and safety are going to drop drastically. Safety, people in a crisis like COVID, they feel very unsafe. And then their motivation bases change. They might now be motivated more. They might even move to another place to keep their family safe. But they're certainly going to be more motivated to bring safety to their home environment. You need to take that into account. So if we're talking about success, we're moving from a management style of motivation, we have a program, we have motivation meetings, we have pamphlets, we have rewards. We are moving up a gear, and we're talking about thought leadership-based motivation. That's something you cannot abdicate. So how are you taking the lead with your thought leadership? How are you taking ideas on board, shaping the future of the business? How are you allowing people to bring their thoughts to the table and integrating those thoughts and ideas into your plans and strategies? I would say that we mustn't get confused between this hype about a thought leader and thought leadership. Thought leaders can and typically are people who are aware of what's going on in their field, the essential changes. And if somebody is a thought leader and you say to them, well, you're a thought leader in, let's say, social media in terms of a back-end marketing, okay, or affiliate marketing, then this person can say to you, you know, what's happening in the industry, these are the key things, you know, and that's important that in your business you keep in touch with that. But the competency, and I really want to underline this at the end here, of your thought leadership when it comes to people and short-term changes in the business is your ability to think differently, to take external events, realities, and inputs, and to take what's happening inside of your business, to be able to think about those things individually, but especially in an integrative way. So your role as a leader in your business, you don't have to be an expert to be a thought leadership a manager. Not thought leadership manager, a thought leadership leader, if I can say it that way. So people know, they will then start to trust that whatever happens, when things fall apart, or what the changes are, that you can hold those spaces and you will take the pieces and you will help them put those pieces together again. So the first part of changing gears, I just want to leave you with this idea. Whether it's motivation or whether it's pivoting or whether it's marketing, whether it's, let's say, consulting, make that mindset. Take the time. Go and see material. You know, thought leadership, if you go to YouTube, you're going to get 1,000 videos. But go and sift and find out what thought leadership is going to fit your style, the way you think, and what your business needs right now. Because that's the way you're going to get motivation and momentum in your business. So I just want to conclude by saying this is really an exciting topic because, for me in any case, because it's very people-directed. I'm a strategist, I'm a consultant, but I've been in a corporate environment, I've had my own business, I've worked in incubators, but I love seeing change for the better in people. Sometimes you talk with a person whose hope level and options seem very low, or you are getting a group of people together to try and solve their problems. If you apply thought leadership to that situation, you are most likely always going to create a space of safety and options for people to motivate them either to try something new or do better in what they're doing. Right, people, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed and took something away from this. I um, I look forward to the next session. I'll be doing one in August, and I'd you're free to give some feedback on what are your ideas around thought leadership, but take it away either for yourself or for your business. Once again, every person, thank you so much for coming to this webinar. Uh, I really appreciate the fact that you want to move forward, and I want to thank Nedbank for the opportunity to be here. Every person involved in doing Simply Biz, don't underestimate the resources you've got. Go to the site, uh, pull out what there is, and use these cores of change for motivation. Right. Uh, I think that's it. I think we can end the session, and you can see that you're getting a free download link to the Simply Biz handbooks, and there's also the different links on the Simply Biz website. So I would suggest don't only read them, go to the links and sift through the information and look for leadership, thought leadership issues. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day, and don't let the pressure get to you. You are tough, you are strong, and go out there and just believe that if you can get tough and you go in the right direction with your thought leadership, you will win. Thanks, everybody, and have a good one.